Howdy, y'all. John Paul from Texas, again, doing this week's video of women in the American Revolution. We're still all dealing with COVID, and I hope everyone's doing well and safe and healthy. Um, Women in the American Revolution is an interesting subject, being the fact that women played a role of support more than on the actual battlefield, because neither side wanted or allowed women to fight. Yet it did happen in a few cases of women fighting on the front lines. But for the most part, women were cooks and nurses, and some were spies to help the American cause, and there were spies and cooks and nurses for the British as well. But all three of these roles are critically important. An army travels on its stomach. You can't march 20 miles and fight a battle without being fed. Women were critical in feeding and procuring health for the soldiers that were going to fight. Also is true, you need nurses to take care of the wounded and the sick due to a number of causes while in the field fighting and prolonged tracted war. And you need good intel. You need to know what your enemy's doing. This was exceptionally important for the American cause. George Washington was fighting an uphill battle, taking on Goliath with David Stone, trying to fight a prolonged, static war that was meant to zap the British strength of men and money, draining both of them, knowing that eventually they'll go home. They cannot prolong it forever. But to do this, George Washington had to keep his army alive, moving, and mobile and ready to fight. Women were critical in being able to spy and collect intel on the British movements, giving George Washington the information of traps being set and enemy movements at night and the cover that he normally would not have been able to find out about until it was too late. Keeping his army mobile and fighting the battles he could fight and could win. And some he didn't win. Many he didn't win. But he was able to bleed the British at the time continuously and to draw them in further and further. While this may sound like Afghanistan or Iraq in the modern day, it's very much based off the same kind of strategy. The American Revolution is the first major time that guerrilla warfare is used on a grand scale. The entire war. Most of America's military was based off militias, which are not as well trained as standard soldiers, not as well equipped, but they're light infantry. But they have one key advantage over all others. They know the terrain better because they're fighting in their own backyard, along with their own skills of hunting and gathering and scouting. They know the land and they know where they're at. The British did not have this ability overall. And the Americans knew that they had to capitalize on it. But this also meant that big static battles that were common in the day of marching soldiers as close as you could to each other, being 20 or 30 yards away and opening fire, that was not where a militia belonged. It wasn't this match for them. But George Washington, with all his struggles of keeping the country together, building a country, and being the first president, would not be possible without this key important woman, Martha Washington. She, unlike other women, had to take care of children from a previous marriage and Mount Vernon, 20,000 acre family ranch that was the sole income of their family. The American Civil War lasted around 8 years. Then there were years of building the nation, and then being the 8 years of being the first president. In this time, all of those duties fell to her. On top of which, during the American Revolution, she was critical at being the caretaker for George Washington and being his confidant. He's the one person she was the one person he could always turn to and trust and share information and get somebody's judgment during the Benedict Arnold's betrayal and a number of conspiracies to bring Washington down and to destroy the American cause from inside and outside. That she carried a burden of family and children and the ranch and still was there for all of George Washington's time. In his darkest moments, she was there supporting him. We would not have the United States that we have today without her sacrifice and many other. Women played a supportive role, but to have one soldier in the battle on the battlefield today takes 5 support soldiers. In the American Revolutionary time, those 5 positions were women's jobs, is what they held and did. And you didn't get 5 women. 1 or 2 had to do all of it. So they did the work of 5 people every day. That is a major sacrifice to their families, to their livelihood, to everything, to build this nation. And that's why I covered Martha Washington. I hope you guys all learned a great deal from this. You guys have me on Blackboard to ask me any questions. Hope you guys all stay safe and happy and healthy. And have a good night, guys.